everyone, J-Rod Plays here. This is going to be the loadout overview of the Birthplace of the Vow video that I have. And I'm going to also do the Hypernet Current once I get a chance, but that's going to be the last one on my list that I haven't done for the Conqueror title. However, for the Birthplace of the Vow, it's also not an easy one. They had a pretty tough lineup this season with some of the harder GMs. Thankfully, I don't know if they've done some adjustments or if just it's the strength of the build or the builds this season. This Birthplace went a lot quicker than most of them that I've done, and the boss was a difficult boss, but it wasn't like overly difficult like some of the other seasons where everything was just instant dead. That, or maybe I just was better at keeping up at some of the waves, but you'll see that in the video and the run with the commentary and everything. Now back to the build. As far as the enemies that we're dealing with, you're going to have Unstoppables and you're going to have Overloads. So for the Overloads, I'm running Overload Pulse, and I'm running Battle Scar with Kinetic Tremors. The Kinetic Tremors, when they build up, they do help to stun a little bit, and if any enemies are around any Overloads, it'll help also do a little damage to those and keep those from adding to the fight. I'm running Polaris Lance, which is super strong, and you're going to need to bring your best build for this one. This is going to be a tough one. And then I'm running Apex Predator to help clear large waves and also do heavy damage. I didn't take advantage of the bait and switch as much just because of the speed at which you have to get it out and then get back to your primary, but I did take advantage of reconstruction so that I always had a rocket available. And so let's go into the actual build itself. So for the build and for the relic, you're going to make sure that you're picking things that are going to affect the enemies that you're going to be facing with your Scorn. They're going to have heavy void, so you're going to do double void resistance. Concussive dampener is very helpful for all the grenades and things that are thrown your way. I'm going to try to maximize, in this case with the Sunbracer build, my ability to get my melee energy back. So I'm running the heavy-handed, bolstering detonation, I'm running Fastball, and then Utility Finisher. This one's going to help me get my ability to heal back. So like, let's say I get in a situation where I run up on a group of enemies, I use my melee, and then I use my Icarus Dash, or sorry, not my Icarus Dash, my Phoenix Dive. And the Phoenix Dive, that's going to create some additional Scorch. That's going to cause them to all ignite, and that's going to allow me to get into my Sunbracers Ready part of my build. I have Harmonic Scavenger, so that way I can pick up Solar Heavy, and so when I get heavy drops there, I'm running Invigoration to help get my melee cooldown back when I pick up an orb, and Bid Already, that's just going to help survivability when I run over an orb. I'm running Powerful Attraction, so if there is orbs around and I do the dive, it's going to pick that up. And then from here, Outreach, that's going to reduce melee cooldown when using class ability, so that's again keeping my melee up. As far as my stats, I have max resilience, I have good recovery, good discipline, and my strength as high as I could get it. That's as high as I could get it there. I would like to have it a little bit more, but it's serviceable. It worked great for that particular scenario. Now going into the artifact, you'll see that again I had the pulse set up. These are just filler. You're going to grab the Kindling Trigger. That's going to give us Solar Weapon ability applies Scorch to unscorched combatants. And then from there, you're going to do from Whence You Came. That's really big because you're going to be facing basically Scorn the whole entire time. This is filler wished into being, but that's going to help get your super back. Well, Radiant, you're going to get increased damage if you have somebody doing Strand or Stasis alongside of you. In this case, we had 3 Solar Warlocks. I didn't really get to use that, but that's still nice. This one here is going to allow us to get rapid hits to give us Radiant, so that's an additional source of Radiant. I also had Radiant from the melee. And then Revitalizing Blast, if you do happen to hit a champion with your melee and then from there do some damage to it, that was going to be an additional way to get damage on it. For me, for example, I did this a couple times with a few of the unstoppable champions that I was able to close the distance on, but you don't do this a whole lot because a lot of the champions are at distance. I was using Overload Rockets because that was doing a ton of damage to Overloads and helping push them so they wouldn't be able to regenerate. And then I was using the Argent Ordnance. The Godslayer Rocket really makes a difference as well. With Raise of Precision, if you happen to get Precision Final Blows, that's going to help get enemies that hide, and the enemies do hide a lot in this. For the Dawnblade, once you're in the Dawnblade, you want to make sure that you're set up a specific way so that way you can maximize the regen of your abilities. You of course have to go Solar Grenade when you're doing Sunbracers. You're going to go Incinerator Snap just because that's going to help get the ignition and help get some kills for you a lot quicker. Of course, Phoenix Dive, that's going to help you, so you're going to do the combo of Ignition, Phoenix Dive, outside of the group of enemies. I learned the hard way. You'll see in the video, you want to make sure you're not directly in the middle of them because that usually leads to death. So outside to the side of them, that's still going to push Scorch to the ones that are necessary, get your kill. That's you can go ham with the Solar Grenades at that point. And for your aspects, you're going to do Touch of Flame, and Heat Rises. The reason you're doing Heat Rises over Icarus Dash is because when you're in the air, you get additional melee energy, so you can hop around and do damage and get your melee energy back, and you'll see me doing that in the video, either flying around or hopping around to get melee energy back. I'm running Ember of Empyrean. That way, if I do get my energy going as far as for Radiant, I can just get kills and it'll extend Restoration and Radiant. So, for example, if I'm in the air and I'm getting a bunch of kills after having used my dive, I can then still get Restoration and Radiant going again and again and again with all the abilities that you end up getting, and you stack all the ignitions and you stack all the solar final blows. So those things are going to help continue to kind of steamroll through enemies. Ember of Torches is what I was referring to, getting Radiant by using my melee. Scorch stacks are important, so you're going to get Ember of Ashes, and then Ember of Singeing. This is going to be important because whenever you scorch targets, you're going to get your class ability back, and that's going to be your only way of healing. You can't just stand in a rift. You're going to have to be mobile in this particular GM, so that's one that you want to make sure that you always have. So I have ways of getting that back, either through finishing or through this. And of course, these, again, the stats that we talked about. The weapons, just to double back on the weapons, just so you understand what I'm doing with them. Again, I'm using the Apex Predator with the Reconstruction so that I always have a rocket. I'm using the Polaris Lance as my main damage dealer. For those who are new to the Polaris Lance, when you get 4 consecutive hits, your 5th hit is going to provide an explosive round, which also now provides Scorch with changes to it, which makes it a heavy favorite for GMs because you can stack up Scorch kills again and again and again, Scorch explosions again and again and again. And what that's going to do, that's going to stun a lot of enemies, that's going to stun lock a lot of the champions between the Overloads and the Unstoppables, and that's going to make a big difference for you. And of course, it is a very easy way to apply Scorch from a distance and just take out waves of enemies with very little effort from a safe distance. The Battle Scar is good. If you have an auto-loading pulse, that'll be fine too, because that'll help you where you can keep putting pressure on the overloads. They do tend to try to get away and regenerate as quickly as possible. Mine was Kinetic Tremors. That's going to help me with my ability to put pressure on them, and this one worked out pretty well for me. Of course, my teammates also had the pulse and an auto, so we were able to kind of together keep the overloads in check, and you'll see that in the footage as well. If you have any questions on any additional builds, and if, for example, in this next week as I'm posting the video, the surges change, I can also put a different build video up, and that way you have the build video that I have, which you can still go in there without a surge and do well with, and then you have a video that's going to be tied to your surges, although this one is going to be superior in my opinion. This is going to be the best way to get this done, and you'll see that if you take a look at the footage and you kind of watch through the entire run. I'll see you guys in the run. Alright, so dropping in, you want to make sure that you don't get killed early by the ads that spawn right there by hopping on your speeder and running straight into an Unstoppable that's waiting for you. The Unstoppable here, you shouldn't have to use heavy on it, but I did because we were already kind of getting beset upon, so I just wanted to make sure that we didn't end up getting picked by this Unstoppable early and losing a revive when we only had 4 starting out, so I just made the effort to try to make sure that, that my teammates were safe. I also almost got stuck on that little spike there, so just be careful. There's in this, for whatever reason, GM, there's the most things that protrude out in weird spots that the architecture kind of sucks you in, and you think you're going to be able to get around the corner, or you think you're going to be able to jump against a wall, especially floating around and stuff, where you'll end up getting hung up on a lot of the architecture. And I'm pretty decent with my movement, and it doesn't normally happen to me very often, but as you can see, even somebody like myself who does this a lot will still get hung up on architecture. So if you're new to this, just be careful, watch your feet, and try not to get yourself stuck like I almost did and get killed for an easy wasted revive there. Now here you want to make sure you're prioritizing the Chieftain and you're trying to get it killed as quick as possible because it does push you very hard along with all the other ads. As you can see there, I took advantage of not only the rocket launcher but the Battle Scar with the Kinetic Tremors that help do some additional damage to all the ads that are pushing as well. Now, I don't know why I didn't get my melee kill there. It didn't give me credit for it. If not, I would have had a ton of grenades to throw, but still didn't need them. We cleared it up pretty well with our teammates, and here I'm taking advantage of the rocket to push his health down, even though I don't need to. I just, again, don't want any early deaths to throw us off or to demoralize us or anything like that, because when you're doing LFG, which this, of course, is an LFG guide, you want to make sure that you're trying to make it as smooth as possible for your other LFG members, so that way they don't get down and think, oh, I'm with a couple of duds, I'm not going to be able to finish this. You want them to be feeling strong and confident about their run, so that way, you know, you guys can get the goal done, which is to get this done for your Conqueror. Now here, as you can see, I'm picking at the Abomination, and again, the Ignition is what's going to be stunning him for me. I don't have an unstoppable weapon specifically for that, so I'm using my Scout in order to stun and try to make sure that I'm getting the kill on him as well. I could have thrown a couple of rockets, but I'm getting low, so I just want to make sure that I save that. And as you can see, the Polaris Lance does an amazing job of locking him down, and also does a ton of damage as well. Did you see how we did that damage on that Elite? It makes a big difference. You know, when you have something that can just lay on heavy from a distance, he couldn't even get close enough to us to use his weapon to kill us. Now this is going to be the first difficult part. This is where a lot of runs fall apart. This is the first sticking point. You want to make sure that you're popping your well and you're staying in the well and you're taking advantage of it while still dodging screeps. Here I was kind of frustrated because I thought in my mind that when I did the dive that additional scorch was going to cause the screep to blow up, and the screep did blow up, but not in the way that I expected it. So that was an early death for me, and I was already here thinking, oh crap, this is it, this is where the run's going to end, we're not going to be able to get this done, we got behind. But fortunately, it does take a little while, but you can actually kill all of the ads that spawn over and over again as they spawn, and they will stop spawning at a certain point and let you finish. You just have to make sure that you're prioritizing the little screebs, and then from there you can pick up the stalkers. Watch the grenades that are flying at you. You'll end up getting grenades at your feet, so try to stay in the air or try to stay back, because the grenades will come. And make sure with the screebs that you're prioritizing the lowest health screeb first, so that way you don't get a couple of them blow up on you, you know, at the same time, because you're trying to do one at the other, one at the other. Just pick the screed that you know you're working on, use your melee in this case if you have to, and then from there you can lay down a blanket of grenades that'll help prevent anything from coming around the corner on you guys, and just cover both sides. And that should give you a benefit as far as clearing out a bunch of the waves at one time with each activation. As you can see, I already have my melee back, so if I was not worried about getting this res, I'd be able to push up and start trying to get the grenades out again. Thankfully, I did get them off, and I was able to use them in order to cover the res, and so that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm just trying to stay back, trying to make sure I don't get grenaded, trying to make sure I stay for my team to get at least one other person up so that we're safe in case one of us dies. We're not going to go to orbit. And now it's just a matter of picking out everybody and using your artifact to your benefit. Try to get your headshot kills, because those will get you ignition kills. Those ignition kills will get stuff around the corner that you can't see, so that way you don't have to worry about killing additional ads. You just kill the one ad in the middle of them, and then he'll take care of his other ads. And so this is what I was talking about, where you have no additional ads spawning, you can finish, and you can move on to the next one. So they're not infinite, thankfully. And again, these are always dangerous, these tight spots where you have a choke point and you can get a grenade through there. As you can see, our teammates handled it really well. Nobody was stuck in the choke point. We all waited back, and when the nade came out, we were able to avoid it, all three of us, which, again, I was thankful that these guys were pretty good. You know, all of us died here and there, but for the most part, we did pretty good as a team to handle this difficult nightfall. On this left side here too, I don't know if you noticed how we handled these guys using our Polaris Lances and getting ignition kills, but these enemies on the left are actually quite deadly, so do your best to try to like get them quickly and knock them out so that they can't stack up on you with their long-range weapons. And this is why I love the Polaris Lance. As you can see, I'm picking at this Corrupted Raider, and it just can't do anything. And from here I can pick it up, and I can get the precision kill, which will get the ignition kill, and that'll start the chain. Now we're a little bit too far from this overload to do a whole lot, because the pulse rifle range is a little short. Auto range is also a little short, so it's not actually activating the overload rounds, and so we're going to have to push up and take advantage of this. But I want to try not to use heavy if I can avoid it, but since there's heavy laying on the ground, I say to myself, well, might as well just use a rocket on it. And you can see how effective the rocket is. And all you got to do then is just get its health down to where it's finishable. And I had already died once, so I didn't want to die again. That's why I hit it with another rocket versus going for the finish. I wasn't going to let it get 1 or 2 more shots as I was falling into it and then maybe get a kill on me. Now here you want to try to make sure that you're taking the advantage of them being in a choke point and trying to get a grenade in there. I got mine a little too far back. I would have liked to have it further up toward the edge of the stairs, but it's fine again because with the abilities that we have right now, I was able to clear them pretty easily with the artifact explosions. And that's, of course, getting your precision shot. And then I was able to get my melee kill and get that started. Now, it sucks that the enemies didn't spawn, because normally the enemies will spawn and start pushing toward this door, these particular stalkers, and they didn't. They fell back, so I kind of wasted my grenades there. But if you didn't have somebody die like we did on our run and I was waiting, you can push up and start nading the whole room. There I missed my rocket, so what I'm going to do now is just try to keep the pulse rifle going on him, keep him from recovering, but he got into cover, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the lower level, and then once that lower level is clear, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to pop my super so that I can make sure that we get this kill for this overload, because it's going to be one of the more disruptive enemies, being up top with a vantage point to everybody below. So now we've got the higher ground, and we're going to fire down onto the overload down there and the chieftain down there, and make sure that we're taking our time and nobody's overextending. I didn't like that my teammates got right up next to me, because we're all kind of next to each other to die. Like a well-placed grenade could have gotten all of us, but it's okay. You know, I just fell back and made sure to cover my teammates, killing that totem there to make sure that they didn't get burnt. You know, again, I'm taking a lot of my time to not worry about what I'm doing and really pay attention to covering my teammates and keeping the ad density down for them, because that's what kills in this particular GM, is just the sheer number of enemies, the amount of damage they put out all at once. They have very effective weaponry, especially the boss, and so you want to make sure that you're not allowing it to have any help. You want to make sure that you kill all the little stuff that you can. And this is where the Sunbracers come in handy, because now if anything that pushes up, I can get the Sunbracer melee kill on it and just blanket that whole lower level with solar grenades, which I'll be doing. You'll see me doing here in a second. Now that chieftain's a little far out, same thing, it's kind of out of pulse rifle range. I'm just stunning it so that we can try to move up a little bit. I was hoping that my teammates would move up while I had it stunned, but they didn't, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do it then. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just reloading before I go. Here I go with my grenades, so now I can blanket the whole floor. And so anything that spawns down there, it has nowhere to hide. And then I can also start doing damage to this overload now. And this is just so that we get a nice head start. I didn't have to use the rocket, but I had 5, so I figured might as well. And now I'm just pressing up and using the kinetic tremors to keep it from healing. So this next section is going to be with the abominations. If you are solo, or if you're in a situation where you're like well ahead of your teammates, you can actually push up there and get a melee kill while then triggering your solar grenades and blanket the area in solar grenades. I didn't want to do that because I was just worried that maybe I had a bad death or something, and then I wasn't going to be around to help my teammates that did need my help. As you can see right away, the teammate that moved up got pretty much owned, so my goal was just to stay alive so that we can get the res, and I will be taking out this with the well. So thankfully with the well, the abomination can't really do a whole lot to you. It's a slow attack, and it gets stunned with your scorch stacks once they ignite. so it'll actually stay pretty useless as long as you keep yourself in the well and just keep trying to hit your shots. You'll end up actually being able to lock him down, and he's not much of a threat. And so now I got the finish in, got my melee back, and I'm ready again to use sun bracers if I need to. Thankfully I found some heavy, so that's going to be helpful for the large groups of enemies that spawn, and you'll see how we handle them. So I'm actually not going to stay too long with Flint. I'm going to let Flint do his thing, and I'm going to try to do my best to orbit him, killing all the stuff that I can in a circle around it, and then using my grenades in order to prevent all these things from moving in. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to protect Flint and OJ while still remaining safe myself, so that way I don't end up getting killed with him. Now my hope was try to get an ignition kill. I didn't get it, so I didn't get to kill all the stuff that was coming at it. But as you can see, if you don't get that ignition kill and you don't get that save, that it can easily take out your team. A couple of screeves, even inside of a well, will wipe you down. So you want to make sure that you're not in that with everybody, because if we were all three in here, that would have been an easy extinguish and we would have gone to orbit. So just want to make sure that if you're the one that's watching this, that you're the one that hangs back and tries to provide cover fire. And if you have your super, then get in there and drop your super and then get back out again so that they can use your super and you can be the one to provide the cover fire. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to drop our super, and we're going to stay in a situation where we can actually get out there and get the clears and try not to get killed ourselves. As you can see, I'm pretty good at getting to the edge of the spawns, but sometimes I still get a little too deep in the spawn with the dash, with the dive, I mean. And so now I can blanket the area and make sure that nothing spawns here. Or at least when it does spawn, it's not going to get out of there. My abilities are ready again, so I could have used them again, but my grenades were still doing their thing, which is great. Try to get the kill. Unfortunately, it got robbed from me there, so I didn't get my sun bracers, which would have been nice right here, but this is where the rocket comes in. Well-placed rocket. Here's where I'm getting stuck on the geometry when I was saying where some of the stuff you can get stuck on and you can almost get yourself killed. And now I'm dropping this here so that I can finish the plate. You see how that one screeb almost killed me? A second screeb almost assuredly would have killed me. And here I'm going to use my abilities. I've got my sun bracers, so I'm going to light them up. I was hoping that another spawn would happen here, but it didn't. Although it's fine because we already got our finish, and now we just have to kill all the little stragglers that are coming across. Here I am getting stuck on the geometry again, trying to get a float kill. Now I was trying to decide which side I wanted to go up on, you know, the right side or the left side, but I figured since we were already up here, we might as well all come through on this side. And unfortunately, I didn't get it, but if you can, you want to try to get up in here into the spawn, and you want to drop your melee and your nade and then your dash and try to get a kill. I was just like a half second early, so I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to get the stun either. And so once I knew that I wasn't able to get the stun, I was like, all right, I'm out. And I don't know how he died so fast, my teammate, but he was dead, so it's now time to try to shoot stuff through the small hole of this little opening here. And just do your best to try to bait out the champion, which fortunately in our run, we actually were able to bait the champion forward, because once he's out in the open, we can pretty much team up on him. And now we can just lock him down. Which I don't know how the rocket didn't do stun damage there, but whatever, it is what it is. Now we've got the finish in, so I'm going to push in and try to get this finish. got heavy to pick up, so now I'm full heavy, which is nice. And that's where the scavenger perk really, really makes a difference. Now here it's another kind of a point in which you can accidentally get yourself wiped or at least lose a couple of reses, which I believe we just lost one at this point. You can take your time with your Polaris Lance and all your long-range weapons and pick at all the stuff. It's going to hide, so just be patient with it. But you have to have somebody with their head on a swivel, because there on each side is going to be 2 berserkers that are going to push you, and they're the stasis type. So as you can see there, they are behind us, and what they did is they ended up pushing up, so I was like, oh shit, let me get out of here. Try to get the kill so I can get my sun bracers up, but I wasn't able to, although our teammate was able to get those 2 kills. Thankfully, I was expecting him to die too and me to have to pick them both up, but we only missed that 1 res. In the future, just be ready whenever you come into this, because you're going to come into this area multiple times, for those to push you from either the right or the left side. So far for me, I can only remember the ones that pushed me on the right, but I think we did have one instance where they came from the left side, so just be aware of that. And you can actually see them sometimes jumping from the middle to the right or the middle to the left platforms to push that approach. Now you'll notice that I have a heavy there on the ground. What I'm going to do is I'm going to purposely leave that there in this room, because you will be back in this room again. And when that's the case, as you come into the boss fight into this room, there will be heavy waiting for you. So that'll allow you to use a little bit more heavy in the boss room, clearing ads and making sure that your team is safe. And then you can recover that heavy in here. And you can see that was a good example of what it looks like when kinetic tremors kicks in and helps prevent the overload from regenerating because of that tick damage that's happening while you reload. Now in here you're going to get your enemies jumping in from both sides, so that's what I'm doing right now, is blanketing both sides. And I tried to get a nade all the way in the back, but I just happened to run out of nades. You can sometimes get a kill on an overload from in here, but more often than not, you have to move into the room and get up on one of the ledges on the left and the right to get the overload kill. We almost got the overload kill here, as you can see, and if he maybe hadn't have missed those 2 rockets, we would have definitely gotten that kill. But since he missed the 2 rockets, the overload's going to get away, and even though I pushed into the left, he's already at that point inside of the cover of the totem. And I don't know why I thought there was like a little hole right there where I jumped up. But obviously there was not, so it is what it is. I'm not going to use a rocket here because we already have him isolated, so I'm just going to make sure I pick at him and then go in for the finish when it's time. So now here's the next section where it can be a little bit difficult. You got this really long bridge, and you're going to have a lot of things pushing you really fast all at once. So your goal is to try to get these collat kills where you're getting your ignitions, and you can actually really focus the larger light scourges to do that. As you can see, we're stacking up Scorch to the point where we're having almost constant ignitions, and that's allowing us to get damage on all the things that are pushing up around there. So if you can try to get that timing right, that's a really nice way to clear, is to use the big enemies and use their ignitions to clear the smaller enemies. And now just make sure to stay on your feet. These attacks can have really long range, so just do your best to stack up your Scorch and your attacks, and just try to make sure that you know, again, you're not dying or wasting any of your reses here, because even though this is kind of a tight spot to get in and everybody can get stuck on each other, you want to make sure that you're saving your revives for the boss fight, because that's where you're going to need them the most. The abominations, fortunately, too, are visible here from a couple of different angles, so try to find a good angle, and just, if you're using Polaris as well, stack up your Polaris damage. This one here was kind of at an odd angle, but thankfully I was still able to get some headshots on it, and then just kind of let it wander in, and it should get stuck in a good spot here in a second. Also, my teammates are pushed further up, so they're actually in a better location, so I'm just going to try to make sure that I do my best to kind of get a little head glitch on it. And again, with the Polaris Lance and all the ignitions, the Abomination is pretty useless. Now Now this heavy here you're not going to be able to come back for, so go ahead and pick up any heavy ammo that you have. And 22 minutes in, here we are at the boss fight. I was actually pretty surprised that we got here so quickly. So in this room, the key is to stay on top of the ad spawns, because that's more likely what's going to kill you. I do die once from the boss because as I'm dealing with the ads, the boss focuses me instead of my teammates who are on the other side of the room while I'm clearing the ads. But as you can see, I immediately get in there, I get my incinerator snap, and I get my dive on them to get the additional scorch damage and cause an ignition. And I am not going to let this overload get away. I'm going to use all of my ammo and all of my heavy to make sure that it dies quickly. I do the same thing with any champion that spawns, including the Unstoppables. I just get in there and I nuke them as fast as possible because there's so much damage going out with the boss and some of the ads that spawn around him that you can't have a champion as well roaming around. If you get to the point where your champion's roaming for too long, that usually can end your run. So again, I get in there and I get the dodge, and because I got the dive and I dived two into the center, I was able to get a couple hits in from those guys. They actually hit me, and then the boss ended up picking me, like I was talking about how it focused me instead of my teammates. And so thankfully Flint was able to get in here, and he did pop a well, which took him a second. I was worried that we were going to get both killed from the ads that were going to hit us at the exact same time, but he got the well in good. He saw my message where I was telling him to use the super if you need to, because there's 3 of us with wells. There's no need to hold on to your well for damage or anything like that. The whole part of this is just staying safe, surviving the ad spawns, doing your best to get collab kills like I'm getting here. And again, as I'm floating around, I'm building back up my melee, and so that's kind of the key, is trying to build back up your abilities and make sure you have them ready so that when you get an ad spot in there, you can actually take advantage of the incinerator snap and dive combo to try to clean them out. Unfortunately, I didn't have my snap exactly yet. I do have it now, but that would have been a nice time to be on top of them if we didn't have that death. But I was able to clean that up and still get away and use the dive to kind of dive sideways away from the boss. And now I'm using my heavy to make sure that we're clearing those out, because that's going to be another Ravager spawn, and those Ravagers can become a problem. They're so fast moving. So as you can see here, the boss is by himself. He's isolated, which is what you want. We're constantly moving and staying away from him and trying not to get killed by his fire and wasting any revives from him, although we have plenty. 9 is plenty of revives for this particular fight. But the goal, again, is to push his health little by little, chunk at a time, and force the ad spawns. And then from there, once you get to this last little bit, it's just doing damage to the boss. So just take your time, use your primary on him, whatever you got to do. But save your heavy is what I'm getting at. So once you push him to this last little bit, he's going to shield up, and then you're going to be pushed into the next realm. And it's going to be kind of a rinse and repeat of what we did the first time, where you're going to move up, you're going to try to weaken a Screeb, and you're trying to get your incinerator snap on a weakened Screeb, so that you guarantee that you get your grenades, and then you're just going to blanket the approach all the way through, so that way no matter where they spawn, no matter where they hide, your grenades are going to be able to suss them out and force them to either detonate themselves or they'll get killed by the grenade damage. And they will try to hide behind the statues, so just be aware of that. Now, same thing here, they're trying to get a stun on the champion so that he can't do a lot of long-range damage to us. I'm going to move up and try to get my incinerator snap and blanket this whole area again. I lucked out here because I didn't see that raider. I had no clue that he was there. It was kind of dark. And thankfully I lived through its attacks because of my double resists, so just be aware of that. And now I'm standing here to draw up any of the Screebs, so that way they can walk into my grenades. I only have 4 rockets too, so I'm not going to be using a rocket if I can avoid it on this one. So I'm just trying to use the damage from the Polaris Lance, and I'm going to push up and do the same thing I did last time, try to get the finish on him. And I'm going to try to use my primary, my pulse, to get the additional damage on him, so that way when he's stuck with a dot, he can't heal. The kinetic tremors, that is what I was referring to. So you come right back into the boss room, and you're going to pick a side and try to work on the spawn. As you can see there, I got a stun because I was using my Incinerator Snap and my dive to force an ignition, and then I immediately nuke the Unstoppable, so he's not even a factor. And good, because the boss was actually able to get a kill on our teammate, and so that would have put us 2v1 versus that Unstoppable, and the Unstoppable on top of that with the wraiths roaming around, that would have been a bad thing. So I'm glad I had a well, and we were able to, between me and the teammate, do a good job clearing. I'm going to move over into the right to draw the fire of the boss away from my teammate so that he can get the res, and I'm going to knock out this totem so that way they can start doing damage on him. Unfortunately, I was a little bit out of position on this spawn. It would have been nice to head off that spawn, but what I'm doing now is I'm trying to kind of cut through and get to their side to help them deal with any of the Ravagers that spawn or any of the wraiths that spawn. And he was able to get the one in the back, but I'm here working on the one in the front. And I just got a nice little finish on it to cut it off, and now I'm going to get hidden because the boss and the Scorn down there were both focusing me. So I've got my snap, so I'm going to try to get a snap in. And boom, I get the ignition, and now I've got grenades. So now I'm just going to blanket the area with grenades. I'm going to try to get the boss to get kind of stuck into my grenades and keep it from roaming around too much. And so it did get some pretty good damage. Now what I'm doing is I'm floating because I'm trying to get my snap back, and I'm stuck on geometry again, like I was talking about, so I had to use my rocket. It just happened to be great timing with that well, because where I was landing I was going to be kind of hurt, and the boss could have killed me there. And now I'm going to pop Heat Rises, that way in case I need to stay in the air for this next enemy spawn. And I'm trying to get this ignition kill if I can. I did get a few kills though, unfortunately. I don't know if I got an ignition or not, if that was mine or if that was just from the grenades. And now we got one more enemy spawn across, so we're working on that right now. I'm going to get in there and get a well down so that we don't mess around, because I will get my well back by the time I need it again. And I'm hopping up and down to get my melee back. And so now we've got the final enemy spawn out, we've got a well, we can just sit there and we can use our Polaris. And what I'm doing there is I was checking behind us just to make sure, because I thought I heard a wraith that was creeping around, and I wanted to make sure that it didn't exist and persist past when our well dropped off and kill one of us. Especially right at the transition, because I don't know if the orb sometimes will make it across, and then we're just 2 of us there instead of 3 of us trying to clear this area. Now here's a good example of the Ravagers that push you. The ones you'll see, you'll jump across in a second in my peripheral, and they'll start pushing us on the right side again, if I remember correctly. Oh, nope, they came from the left. So that was one set of Ravagers there. And now I'm checking for the other set. Yep, and there they are there. You see them jumping across. And these are the 2 Ravagers that I was referring to that come from the middle area. Got the first one, got the ignition kill. And now we're pretty safe. And I've got some heavyweight on me, which was nice. Right here I was trying to get these kills to see if they dropped heavy too. And there's that heavy that I left from earlier. Which, what I should have done is I should have used 1 rocket on the champion and came down and picked up the heavy before I left again. But I didn't want to get too far from my teammates and get too out of sync from them. Like, they'll go through the portal, for example, and the boss is spawning a bunch of stuff, and then I end up going through the portal and everything is spawned. So I was just like, whatever. I'm just going to kill this chieftain as quick as I can and try not to use the rockets. So my teammates, what they're doing is they're using their overload weapons to prevent him from getting his health back, and then I'm doing the damage with Polaris Lance to try to get it down. And so from here, once you get in, there's going to be a spawn right in front of you. So again, Incinerator Snap, dive, got stun, and now I'm just going to go ham with my rockets. I've got my well back, like I was mentioning that I was going to get it back in time. Incinerator Snap, dive. I didn't get the credit for it, which I should have, but it's fine. Now I'm just trying to get my melee back so I can get my grenades going again. Thankfully they're safe over there in their well. And what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I'm ready for the next set. So here it is. And we're pretty much set now, so the last thing that we have to do is just worry about this particular group. I'm going to rocket them, make sure that any of the remnants get killed by the grenade. And now from here, as long as we stay tight, we are not going to lose this. So what I could have done is started to use my bait and switch activation from the rockets instead, but I ended up just using just like regular rockets on him because at that point he was going to die. Plus I still have Godslayer warheads, so I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to move up and I'm just going to make sure to finish this. Like, we're so close, he's standing still, it's time to win. And that's it, that was the GG. So again, the main thing was just keeping the ads clear, making sure that my teammates were safe, getting the reses when we could, but you know, not doing so in an unsafe manner. Use your super to get a res if you need to. And as you can see, you know, a nice meta is 3 well warlocks because it was really useful to have the well warlocks. His hunter might have been okay as well, but definitely the 3 well warlocks with the solar builds was the way to go. And again, don't forget to give out your commendations. This is the second to last GM video that I'll be making. I just got Hypernet Current, so I'll see you guys in that Hypernet Current video. Thanks very much for my new subscribers, and see you later.